Welcome back to True Crime with Yvonne. This case is about Daisy de Melka, a black widow. Daisy de Melka, she was the first African female killer, born in 1886. Daisy was born in Seven Fountain, Graham Town in Eastern Cape. She was one of 18 children. When Daisy was 8, her dad and 2 brothers migrated to Zimbabwe. They were promised a land to farm on. They moved because, of course, life would have been less expensive living there. Daisy's dad decided to leave with his children during the Civil War. The mom was not with them because she had decided to abandon her children and remarry. A few months after marrying her husband, she passed away. Back in the old days, a girl child was not allowed to go to high school. When she left school, they took up domestic jobs like being a housewife. If they didn't become a housewife, they would get training for hospital care or teaching. When Daisy turned 17, she dropped out because she reached the age. Daisy went to Durban, where she started training to become a nurse. Upon arrival, she met an older gentleman and fell in love. They became inseparable. Daisy continued her nursing school while Bert Fuller, that's his name, held a governmental job. A few months after meeting, Bert proposed to Daisy. They didn't get married because he got sick and died. Daisy was devastated. People speculated about his death. Some say he had malaria or an autoimmune disease. But that couldn't have been possible because he had his vaccinations. Immediately after Fuller had proposed to Daisy, he had took out a life insurance, with Daisy being the beneficiary. As a result, Daisy received £100. Back in the day in South Africa, they used pounds because they were colonized by the British. Rands came about when South Africa gained their independence from Great Britain. The older generation still use pounds when talking about 1 rand or 2 rands. We found out £1 equals 150,000 in rands. It was a lot of money back then. After graduating nursing school, she packed up and headed to Johannesburg. As a result, she met William Cowell, a wealthy plumber about 14 years her senior. As a result of the newly discovery of diamond and gold, skyscrapers and erected buildings were being built. All the buildings needed to be piped and plumbed, and William got a lot of contracts, leaving him wealthy. Daisy was elated to be marrying a wealthy man. She got invited to well-known clubs and parties. Daisy and William had 5 children, which they lost 4 to infant mortality. 2 of those children were a set of twins. In 1911, right after the death of the twin boys, Daisy fell pregnant and gave birth to a baby boy. His name was Rhodes Cecile. She was fearful due to her bad luck. Soon after, she had another child named Lester. Lester died before his 4th birthday. People that knew them were in shock and disbelief because to them, Lester was very healthy. Daisy, of course, was sad, and her neighbors and friends sympathized with her. Daisy fell pregnant again and had Alfred. He too died from infant mortality. With so many children of hers dying, they didn't suspect anything because during that time, it was common. Back then, in the 1800s to the 1900s, medicine was still being developed, so infant mortality was common. Daisy was no different from any other woman. Alfred only lived 50 months. The neighbors were shocked. Soon after, they moved out of Johannesburg into Germiston. Daisy couldn't have any more children. Her body was exhausted from giving birth. They lived as a family of three. So now we have William, Rhodes, and Daisy. So that's a family of three. William, being a plumber, worked very hard. He often came home very tired. Daisy would relieve her husband by massaging his body with oil. At first, of course, he was happy, he was relieved that his wife was treating him with kindness. She also gave him some herbal tea. On January 11th, 1923, William started complaining that the oil and the tea that he was getting was making him sick. But Daisy declared that it was not the oils, that these were especially made for relaxation. He had excruciating pain, causing vomiting, foamy mouth, and convulsions. He was sick, so the doctor was called to the home. When the doctor arrived, William was contracted in a fetal position. He also had a foamy mouth and he was vomiting excessively. Daisy was anxious to find out what was wrong. The doctor had suspicion but was unsure. While the doctor prepared to treat William, William took his last breath. The doctor did disclose that the symptoms are those of poison. Of course, Daisy explained away, but the doctor refused to sign William's death certificate. Daisy was concerned and asked the doctor how he knew it was poison. He gave her a long list of symptoms. Daisy even asked what kind of poison, and according to the doctor, it was strychnine. The doctor looked at her with suspicion. The autopsy stated that William died of chronic kidney failure and bleeding in the brain. Again, she inherited William's money, estate, and life insurance. She became the first rich woman in Johannesburg. Daisy decided to enjoy the money and being single. After all these deaths, I don't know why anyone didn't suspect something of foul play. Later on, Daisy decided when her one living son was 18 to start dating again. She met Robert Sprout. He was a plumber and he was 10 years older. In a few months, they married on the death of her previous husband, William. She was happy despite everything that happened previously. Everyone liked Robert except her son. 2 years into the marriage, Robert started getting sick. Robert's brother was shocked. He knew his brother was healthy. On Robert's sickbed, Daisy wanted Robert's brother to convince him to sign the life insurance policy for her to be the beneficiary. But Robert's brother refused. He gave her a hard time. Robert eventually signed. He recovered fully, but died after being served a beer, which Daisy made for him. His brother was devastated. I could see that he was probably angry and he knew something that was going on. Daisy pretended she was devastated. I mean, they said she was devastated, but I'm going to say that she pretended because we know what is going on by now. After this marriage, she decided to remain single. Her son was getting suspicious as well, but never mentioned it to his mom. Robert's life insurance was paid out, so she got £4,560, which is equivalent to millions of rands in today's money. She spoiled herself and her son. Just when we thought she retired, she met another plumber, and his name was Sidney. He did experience some things of the other husband. He had excruciating pain, vomiting, convulsions, but luckily he did not pass away. When Rhodes became 21, he was becoming of age to inherit the estate and money that his dad had left. Daisy made her son lunch one day, and she included a coffee, which was his favorite. Of course, Rhodes was happy. His mom made him a nice little lunch. Rhodes and his co-worker took a drink of the coffee, and during lunchtime, immediately they got sick. He told his mom about it, but she just disregarded it. A few weeks down the line, Rhodes felt sick again. He experienced all the symptoms, but this time, sadly, he succumbed to his illness. Daisy was devastated. Yeah, she was pretending to be devastated. She couldn't take it. I don't understand if she's so devastated, why she kept on killing. So Robert's brother reported Daisy to the police because his brother died in the same way. The police listened and decided to exhume the dead bodies. This is when they found out that the bodies has arsenic. So arsenic is a poison that is very hard to detect. According to the reports, the deceased were all intact, and according to the medical examiners, the bodies looked like people who were poisoned. Toxicology also reported that the bodies had strychnine. They then deemed Daisy guilty of poisoning Rhodes, Robert, and William. The co-worker, when she heard about Rhodes' death, she decided to also contact the police. So Rhodes' colleague reported to the police that she too drank the coffee and was sick and was experiencing some things that Rhodes had experienced. And they did a check on her and realized that she too had strychnine in her system. But I guess it wasn't enough to make her sick enough to pass away. This is when the police decided to arrest Daisy. She was charged in the three counts of murder. Daisy was registered as the first South African female killer. Everybody in town went to see Daisy at trial. She was the first serial killer who killed her two husbands and her child. The court didn't find Daisy responsible for the two deaths of her husband. However, Rhodes' case was different because a pharmacist testified that Daisy came to his pharmacy and asked for arsenic. She initially told him that she wanted it for her cat to put him down, which was not true. The pharmacist was a key witness in Rhodes' case. Daisy was sentenced to death December 8th, 1932. She was hung. Her only surviving husband, Sidney, professed her innocent for 20 years and that the state had made a wrong decision. I could imagine him. He must have loved that woman. I don't know if he didn't had evidence of all those husbands and children dying in her presence. I mean, that's a red flag. From the time I heard her first 4 children dying, I knew something was up, and I was sick into my stomach. I mean, how could a woman bear all these children and then kill them? I don't know if she received insurance for those children that supposedly died of infant mortality, but it must be. I couldn't see why would she be killing these children. What is because of joy that she was getting from it? I also think that because her mother abandoned her, that had an effect on her. It seems like to me by them dying, it's like, her abandoning her children as her mother abandoned her. Be her being an other, her being an only girl. Sometimes, girls feel very connected to their moms, and her mom probably wasn't there for her during her teenage years. So that must have had an effect on her. Um, Part of me also want to think that because her mom passed away, her mom died, maybe she thought that her mom was killed by the husband and was like a revenge, doing a revenge thing by killing people that were close to her, her children, her husband, not only for money, but for revenge. I don't know. That's my thinking. It could be weird, but that's what I think. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your post notification bell. Thank you.